Okay, thanks for doing this. The questions that I asked you before, are you okay with us sharing this recording of your story publicly?
Yes.
Thank you. And then can you or anyone you may mention in your story get in trouble or face legal prosecution for anything that you may share?
No.
Because if they do, we shouldn't do this. And then Cameron's making me now ask that you pronounce your name clearly because I fuck it up. Like, do you want your last name or you just want your first name?
Just my first name is
Okay.
fine.
And what's the correct spelling of your name?
Leslie.
Okay, perfect. Okay, floor is yours. I'm going to mute myself and just enjoy the ride.
Alrighty. All right. My name is Leslie, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is May 18th, 2015. I am extremely, extremely grateful for the journey that I have been on these past 6.5 years. To go over my war story is, let's go back to the beginning. Like most of us, I can remember like the first time that I had like a taste of alcohol or a sip of alcohol. I was younger, like about 6 or 7. I would get like the little itty bitty ounce of like the Chianti, or have like the little Sambuca glass of wine at like Easter or Christmas, fitting in with my family, just so I had that swig of wine. And I chugged back, can I have another, kind of thing. And or sipping that beer, and the first sip out of that cracked beer that dad makes you go and get. Like I remember that. And it was a little different. I wanted more, and I knew that. But my alcoholism didn't really start to take effect until later on. But my ism was in full force when I was 10 years old and forward in junior high and high school. I could never fit in. I was always on the outskirts. I wanted to be one of the popular kids. And I was a square peg trying to fit in a round hole, and I couldn't. It didn't matter. Like I stuck out like a sore thumb because of haircut. Oh, I had a horrible haircut one time, and I can never feel a part of wanting to be. And I'm like, I want what they have. Why don't I have it? And my childhood was a great childhood, growing up, loving parents. I have a sibling, and the typical sibling aspect. I'm the oldest, and there tends to be like rivalry, and so be it. But my path went different. When I hit the teenage years, I was a rebel without a cause. Like my parents tried to keep me in line. Like I had good grades until I started being lazy, and the teacher saying, you can do it, and all you have to do is apply yourself and anything. And so I got those encouragements, like some. And I didn't want to. I didn't want to do school. I just wanted out, like get me out of those 4 walls. And my parents gave me a very, very short leash. They really controlled like what I wanted to do. And I'm like, nope, I'm doing what I'm going to do. And basically gave them the middle finger. From 16, they gave me a set of rules. I never listened to them. I didn't come home when curfew was told, or like I had snuck out many of times. I had snuck out, ran away because they didn't let me do something. But my ism was growing, and I was just becoming uncomfortable in my skin. And I looked for a way out. And when I was 19, I had started drinking around then, like started drinking 18, 19, and it was like good. I had good times, I had bad times, but 19 is really when I really started my drinking. And I met him at 19, and I thought he's my Prince Charming. He's going to sweep me off my feet and out of this hellhole. And we got married, and some of the worst years yet started there for me. He was in the armed forces, and it was going great. Everything was great. And we would be the party house because we lived off base. So people would come to our house. I would make dinner. We have poker games on Friday and Saturday nights. And I learned how to drink with them. I drank them underneath the table by the time I was 20. And he didn't like that. And he showed me how he didn't like it. And he got very abusive very quickly. And my 21st birthday was in a haze. I went drinking with one of my girlfriends, don't remember anything, called him up and come get me, and he was pissed, and it just took off running. My drinking started there, like really progressed to a point, but on that 21st birthday weekend, ended up pregnant with my daughter. And she was a saving grace and very black hole of that time, because after my daughter was born, it got dark. He abused me every which way that he could, mentally, physically, emotionally. And it was hard for me, but she was my little guiding light. She gave me enough courage to leave him. But I still didn't feel right. I still had a void inside of me. And I moved back home, and I was like, all right, what do I do now? I'm 22, I have a kid, no job, no education. All right, let's get a job as a bartender. And there I am off, running again with my drinking. And that's the beginning of the end for me. I was 22, started bartending, and I had built-in babysitters with my parents. So I would leave my daughter at my parents' house just days on end. Like, I'd come in 2:00 in the morning after a shift, change, go back out, come back home for a shift change, like get ready and go back out. And meanwhile, I'm drinking before work, drinking on the job, drinking after. And it didn't matter. Like, I would go on binges. And my daughter's first Christmas, so it's Christmas time right now, I went out with a couple of buddies, and I'm getting blown up by my dad. Where are you? Christmas is tomorrow. You got to be here before the sun comes up so you could do the whole Santa thing. I come stumbling in. He meets me outside in the driveway, and I'm drunk, falling out of the truck. And I'm like, I'm here, and he's all like, you better sober the hell up before you get inside. And I'm like, I can't do that. I'm still drunk. And that was the worst Christmas. My daughter's first Christmas should have been like bubbly and exciting, but I'm there nursing a hangover, didn't want to talk, didn't want to do anything, and I missed it. I missed a lot. But my drinking just kept getting worse, and I kept going deeper and deeper. And I kept changing jobs because of bartending. It didn't matter where I was. I still found those lower companions, and I did whatever I needed to do to get that next drink. For me, I had no self-worth because he beat it out of me. He kept telling me I'm no good. I will never amount to anything. And I never felt a part of. And it just kept going over and over and over. I'm never good enough. I'm not going to be anybody. Why should I even value myself? And my drinking shoved it down far enough where I just felt numb. And I had one instance where I was not a parent and I should have been is my daughter was 3. It was my 25th birthday. And my best friend and her husband and I went to a rock show. And we ended up getting backstage. And we ended up partying with the headlining band. And I took a liking to the lead singer. And we were drinking. And so like, all right, 2 o'clock rolls around. He's all like, oh, we're getting on the bus. You want to go? And I'm like, sure, okay. I walked on a bus. 2 weeks later, I fly home. And where's my child? My child is either with my parents. Thankfully, like my best friend went and picked her up a couple of days before I came home. But me and that lead singer, we ended up being known as Sid and Nancy 2.0 because of how bad we were partying. For me, I'm a true alcoholic. Alcohol is my substance. That's what made me whole. That's what filled the void. That's what stopped the demons in my head from talking. I did outside issues a couple of times, but it was only to prolong my drinking. It was only to extend it. And I was able to take it or leave it on that, but it was the drinking that I couldn't walk away from. And my 25th year was one hell of a year. I did that, disappeared for 2 weeks without my kid. Then I got my DUI, thinking that was my bottom. Okay, I'm not going to do this. And it was a stupid DUI because I was following a friend after drinking all night on Halloween, one of the biggest nights that cops in my area tend to look for drunk drivers. And him that I was seeing at the time, he had just gotten his 2 weeks earlier and we were fighting and he didn't show up for Halloween. So I drank at him. My drinking progressed to this. I was drinking at people, whether you've hurt me, whether you broke your promises. I didn't like you. So I'm drinking. And it didn't matter. I had every excuse in the book just to drink, just to be numb. And Halloween, goodness gracious, I'm gonna say it's like a couple years, 9 years ago, I got my DUI. And I called my dad and I'm like, I'm in jail. I don't want to drink anymore. And he's all like, all right, I'll pick you up in the morning. I'm sitting there and I'm shivering the entire night. It was cold. And I'm like, how the fuck did I get myself into this mess? I did not see how bad my drinking was. Granted, my parents were like, hey, maybe you should take a step back from drinking. And I'm like, no, I'm 25. I'm going to do what I want. And when I got out, I told my dad, like, I don't want to do this anymore. He's all like, all right, what do you want to do? And I was like, I guess I won't drink. Looking back now, I wasn't ready. I had my yes. So yeah, I hit my bottom, but you know what? My bottom had that basement. I fell even further. So the 3 years I hid my drinking. I wasn't allowed, like, I was living at home at the time with my parents and they allowed me to use their car. Well, they told me after my DUI, don't drive drunk. Cool, Oh, I drove drunk. I drove drunker than I ever could. You know, like I was always 3 sheets to the wind and my parents never knew, or they knew and they never let on. And it just kept getting worse. I was losing jobs. And then I found this one job and I was like, all right, I can hold it together. I had a couple of stints of like couple of weeks, couple of months, like not doing as much. And then picking up back where I left off. And I was working at this one major restaurant, and our general manager, he's a friend of Bill W's, and he's all like, hey, he'd come up to me, he's all like, how was last night? And I'm like, it's fine. Why? Not knowing he can smell the whiskey on me, not knowing he knows my rock star is not just rock star. He knows that I'm slurring my words to my regulars. And he asked me how I'm doing. How's that whiskey feeling for me? And I'm like, ugh. Little did I know that little seed was planted, but I'd been there for a few years. And so it brings me back to the day that it happened. Saturday night, typical night. Closed down that restaurant because we were I was a closer, so it closed down the restaurant, was out of there by 1:30. And our bars don't close until 2, so we went drank at 2. We knew a couple of the bartenders, so they let us drink a little bit after hours. Then we hit up a couple of buddies that had their own pad, and we went and drank there. We're all bartenders, so we each take turns mixing shots, mixing whatever we want. My go-to drink was a bottle of Jack. And at that point in time, I was finishing an 18-pack of beer and a bottle of Jack a day. Because I can before I go to work, I get loaded. At work, I take my 30-minute lunch, head down to local bar, drink a few, head back, customers buy shots, whatever, and then go out and drink. And it's on repeat every day at this point. My daughter, I call my parents. Like, I'm at home on my day off, I'm at home with my kid. My mom, I'm like, nope, come take her, please. I don't want to do this. I want to go drink. I have other things to do. I did not want to parent. I was not a parent for my daughter. She was 6 at this point. So back to that Saturday night. We're drinking, we're all taking turns making everybody shots and everything. I wake up coming to, because apparently at that point I love to black out. And I black out in the most randomest places. And apparently one of my favorite places is the closet. I love the closet, apparently. Just a perfect little room, and had my little bottles in the corner, drinking by myself. But I hid my alcohol badly. And I got to the point where I was hiding my alcohol. My alcohol was in my car, in my room. I wear a lot of cowboy boots, so I had bottles in each pair. I had bottles underneath the back bench seat of that Silverado that I had. Bottles in the freaking middle console. I had them everywhere, just so I have them. And I don't care if it was hot whiskey, because the summers out here get really, really hot. And it's hot, warm whiskey, but you know what? It cooled me down because it shut everything off. So that morning I came to, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I in here? I get up and I'm like, oh, I gotta go to work. So I go home, get ready for work, stop by the local gas station, pick up a 3-pack of tall cans, crack one open, drive to work. And my work's not that far from my house. It's maybe 10 minutes. And I walk into work, and for whatever reason that day, I told my manager, I can't do this. I'm still drunk. I need to go home. And they're like, okay, we'll send you home, but there might be some disciplinary actions due to that. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it as is. I go home, and my dad's like, aren't you supposed to go to work? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm too drunk. And kind of looked at him like, yeah. And he's all like, you're driving my truck drunk again. And I was like, I've been doing it, and I don't know why. And I don't want to keep doing this anymore. And I was starting to notice that I was having health issues. And the drinking was finally taking a toll on my body and my mind. And I was just insane. But I finally said to myself, I was honest about, I can't do this anymore. And I told my best friend at that time that I needed to go to get help because I needed to get sober. And at that point, her then boyfriend was also trying to get sober. So we went into this one program, and it's an all-inclusive, and I couldn't feel anything. I don't know if I wasn't ready or if I just didn't fit in. That feeling of fitting in again was rising up, and I didn't have an ounce of alcohol because I am 2 days sober at this time, and I am white knuckling it. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I'm looking around the room and I'm like, I want to run. But I stayed. And then I went home and I told my dad, I think I'm ready for AA. And then the next day, which was a Wednesday, that was my first AA meeting that I walked into. I felt home. I was able to take that deep breath. Finally, I'm like, oh. And when that meeting started and they asked for newcomers, I shakingly raised my hand and bawled my eyes out saying, my name is Leslie and I'm an alcoholic and I need help. And the women that came up to me and the people that I've met through AA are amazing. And from that point on, that's where I started my journey in this program. And my first sponsor, she was amazing. And when we were going through the steps, the third step kind of hung me up because I don't have a God. I had that God that I would pray to when I was out there drinking and didn't want to end up pregnant again or needed to stop drinking. Whatever I was praying to, like, get me out of this situation again. That's the God I prayed to. And then I also was mad at him because of the shit that I went through with my ex-husband beating me close to death and stuff, and having the stupid exes, but at that point, I didn't know my part in things. So I was not on the level playing field with my higher power at that moment. And I am completely grateful for her because she's all like, I have a God. And what is enough is you believe that I believe, and we're good. And for the longest time, I relied on that. And it got me through. I believed that she believed. And I was noticing little things just kind of happening here and there throughout my sobriety. 2 years into this thing, I had some rocky points. The biggest one was my dad having a heart attack. And he's been my biggest supporter through this entire journey that I have had. And to see him in a hospital bed, I was scared. And I hit my knees and prayed, God, don't take him away. And he didn't. And I'm like, I will do anything and everything to make it right with my higher power. And I was struggling. Like the last few years, I've been struggling with my higher power just because you grow within this program. You grow in your sobriety. Like it says in the promises, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. For me, my spiritual journey has been slow, but you know what? I get into so much pain, in so much inner turmoil. That's when I learned that I am growing, because through me, I can burn everything down and it's smoldering in ashes, and I can rise above it like a phoenix. And I've met so many great people throughout my journey of sobriety. With the last few years, I'll end on this. The last few years, I have gone through some growing pains, but I've had these ladies in my life. They have been my trudging buddies, my girlfriends, but they become more like family. They became more like sisters to me, someone that I needed, not knowing that I was going to need them the last few years. And I am seeing that in my family, I'm not the only one that has an ism. And I have to treat my sibling, knowing that they're in their active disease, and it's not me. I've kept my side of the street clean and mended those fences with my parents, because I love them to death, but I was able to become a really good alcoholic because I was never really told, no, let's get going. It was more like, are you sure? Like, I love them, but there's still that, they were still enablers. And it's going to show for my sibling and their disease. So I can see that I became a real alcoholic because I did it. And my daughter, who is going to be 13, she has seen me grow up in this program. And she has seen me become a mom, because I would now, those broken promises that I told her when she was younger, like, oh, hun, we'll go to the movies on Saturday. Well, I wake up Saturday hungover, not going anywhere. I can tell her, we're going to the movies. Let's go to the movies. And she knows that her promises aren't broken anymore. I've signed up every year, every soccer season, as a living amends to her. I'm her team mom. No matter what team, I'm her team mom, because I need to show up for her. And the way that I was going when I was out there, she wouldn't have a mom. She's already down a parent. She would have been down too. But I am extremely, extremely grateful for what I've gained in these rooms. I've been able to go back to school. I just graduated back in July with my bachelor's, and I'm continuing on with my master's in a career field I didn't even think I was going to be excited about. And I had changed it. But I absolutely love it. And I'm just started a month ago with a job in the career I want. And I'm utterly grateful. I call my girlfriend who's in the program, and I'm like, dude, can you believe this? It's all falling together. It's all falling together, and I can't be more ecstatic about it. I've just been completely immersed in this program, and I'm in constant contact with my sponsor. I've done my steps. I have family that have started as trudging buddies that became family, because my family has removed themselves, or I should say I've removed myself, because I was that black sheep. I didn't know why I was that black sheep. When I was out there, I was that black sheep because I was drinking. But now I'm that black sheep because I put boundaries on that that toxic relationship that was building for years and years and years. And I finally said, no, no more. And I'm getting pushback from my family due to those boundaries that I set, and I am not, because I want to break those generational curses that were there. And I want to be able to give my daughter a fighting chance so she doesn't have to go through this. And so the people that I met in these rooms, they're more my family than my actual family are now. And I wouldn't have made it the last 2 years without them, because there were times where I've gotten deep and dark where I'm like, fuck it. A bottle of Jack sounds really good right now. But then I look at her. I look at my daughter once again, and she is my saving grace. And I'm like, I'm doing this for me so I can be there for her. And that's all I got.